Hey everybody, it's JJ Conway. Today we're going to be doing our lesson on Driving for Dollars 101. I'm so excited for today's lesson because it's really a continuation of our Wholesaling 101 class that we did last month. And if you haven't had a chance to view last month's lesson, I encourage you to go to dartrei.com and get access to the lessons, okay? First, I'm going to talk a little bit about who we are as Building Wealth Together. I'm going to give you some promises. We're going to do a refresher on real estate and why I really do love real estate for building wealth fast. Then we're going to talk about finding properties. That's really what Driving for Dollars is about. We're also going to touch on marketing. Even though I covered most marketing in the Wholesaling 101 lesson, I did not talk about mailing. And that was purposeful. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. We're also going to talk about how to research a little bit once you found the property. So Building Wealth Together and the DART REI group, what we aren't is we're not get rich quick. What we are is get rich right. There's a lot of legit ways to get rich. And this group especially believes in education, ethics, and accountability. We offer financial investment and entrepreneurial education. We like to think that we are solutions, not a sales pitch. Our meetings on the third Saturday of every month are always free. However, there are benefits to membership. Open mic at the meetings where you get to talk about your deals, access to the recordings so you can download them as as MP3s or watch them as MP4s. You get first dibs on new classes for free. So I always try out new content before. And a lot of times, just because of my nature, that new content ends up being more detailed than what the actual final course is, right? If you're on our meetup profile, you get a super cool title. And because we archive the meetings, our price of admission goes up every year. So you want to jump in at the ground level, okay? We do have a new Facebook group called DART REI. So I encourage you to join that on Facebook, all right? And because we are a new group, so we split up, Building Wealth Together is 7 years old, but the DART REI Club is a new spinoff, and we don't yet have sponsors. We don't really have members yet. This is brand new. So if you would like to get in on the ground floor, if you'd like to apply as a sponsor, if you'd like to be a part of what we're doing, go ahead and fill out the form here at jjclink.com/sponsor. And you'll be able to be one of our charter sponsors. And you may even be able to do a lifetime sponsorship. Okay. So two promises I make every class I teach. I want to give you skills that you can put into practice today, right? This isn't one of those, hey, I'm going to tease you with some rate information and then you have to buy my $10,000 boot camp in order to actually use any of it. No, you can actually start putting this stuff into practice today. And depending on your prowess with people, you might have money in your pocket by the end of the week. All right. So I'm going to give you something you can use today. And then I'm also going to give you the opportunity to learn more because there's always more. There's always more to learn, right? And now it is kind of modified with COVID. We haven't started our in-person classes yet. And the content we're talking about today is definitely in-person heavy. The role play, the script, and all those kinds of things. Okay. So you definitely want to go out to dartrei.com and take advantage of that. All right. Also, as many of you who have been with me know, my real estate classes are how I fund my Global Youth Initiative. Global Youth Initiative of Northwest Louisiana. And now I guess I need to make a new one because I'm also running Global Youth Initiative of Erath County here in Texas. This is a confidence building and leadership skills building event every April and October where we allow children and teenagers and young adults to know that they are unique, that they have something special to give this world, and that they can walk in their strengths. We do a lot of programming to help raise their confidence so that they can become global leaders. And you can contribute to that when you go to either PayPal. You can use my email there, ministerwiggins@gmail.com. You can do bit.ly/lovehelping. Or you can do Cash App, Queen of Cash Flow. Okay. And just a little bit about me. For those of you who don't know me, I've been a financial coach since 1998, the first time that I got out of debt. And that next year, we bought our very, very first home that I've ever lived in my whole life. And it was a groundbreaking change in my life. Unfortunately, we thought that being debt free did not apply to real estate. And we introduced debt, which meant that when my marriage fell apart, suddenly I was stuck with $845,000 of debt, most of which I did not run up. So, like Farmers Insurance, I know a thing or two about getting out of debt. I now empower women to improve their lives through financial and real estate education. And my big why originally was to make sure my son, and then 10 years later when his brother came along, that they were never homeless, never depending on the handouts of others, never sleeping in a Walmart parking lot because Walmart was 24 hours and you could always go to the bathroom, right? Like that was my goal when I first started my business. And now my big why has really expanded. Like I really feel called to change entire communities by empowering people with wealth management, entrepreneurial, and investment education. Okay. And so why do I like real estate so much? Well, there's many ways to profit from real estate. Okay. You can profit from the property itself. You can buy or manage or control the property itself, get the cash flow. You can have appreciation in that property and the equity. You could also profit from related industries. So things like being a real estate agent or a property manager. You could profit from a trade related to real estate, like plumbing or roofing. And there's ways to profit from real estate that have nothing to do with the actual property characteristics itself, but things like staging or photography, where you take a talent in one area and apply it to real estate. Finally, there are ancillary services wrapped around real estate, such as vending machines, ATMs, and things like that. So there's always a way to make money. And even without the ancillary or industries, just from the property itself, there are 20 plus ways to make money with real estate. And you see that I've got a list of them here. And the cool thing about it is these, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 18 of them that I've got here in the blue box for those of you who are watching this. And for those of you who are listening later on as an MP3, things like bird dogging all the way down through new construction tax liens, you can make money with real estate without ever even buying the house. And guess what? Of those, I've got 9 highlighted here: bird dogging, wholesaling, lease to own, deal making, foreclosure consulting, subject to, VA, ancillary services that you do not need to start with any money. You can start today if you're just as broke as I was when I was $845,000 in debt. And so what I love about real estate, it's really one of the best ways to build and maintain wealth. There's something in it for every personality. And as a financial planner, it's the only ethical and repeatable way I've personally seen people build financial independence in as little as 3 years. I got to tell you, exciting and sexy ventures, they rarely lead to long-term wealth. In fact, most people I know end up worse after pursuing them. And so so a lot of people say, well, I don't know, the so-and-so lost their shirt with real estate. And so, I don't know if I can trust it. Well, you can trust it if you follow the number one rule of real estate, okay? And that is that you make your money when you buy. I'm going to say it one more time because it's so important. You make your money when you buy. And one more time for those in the back row, right? You make your money when you buy. If you get a property at 70 to 80% cost of value, it will make you money, whether you keep it or another investor ultimately buys the property. Sounds simple, but it's not easy, because if it were easy, we'd all be rich, right? There are so many different ways to invest in real estate and make good money. But if you don't have any money, you don't have any credit, then I recommend you stick with the strategies that are more appropriate for investors that have more time than money. See, some investors have more time than money. Other investors have more money than time. And there's a flow of money when the investors who have more time use some of that time to save time for the investors that have more money. All right. It's a natural flow. So if you've got no money, you've got no savings, you don't have credit, your experience is low, then I recommend you start with bird dogging and wholesaling. And what we talked about last month is we talked about wholesaling. And this is where you lock down the price with a contract, and then you assign or sell that contract to another investor. You don't actually close on the property. And yes, for those of you who missed last month, you need to go back and get that recording. You need to buy access to that recording because you can get paid for this. All right. You can get well paid for saving the investor a huge amount of time and money, 3 to 5% of deal. Because think about it. If you're an investor, would you pay somebody $5,000 if you knew you were going to make $50,000 off that property? I absolutely would. And so in order to do this, you want to build an investor network. and you want to understand that it's a numbers game. And that's why more people aren't doing it, because people get real tired of playing the numbers game real fast. But I'll tell you what, you stick with it and you will earn while you learn. And then eventually you will have both the funds and the experience to really do well in real estate. And it doesn't take very long. Okay. So let me explain what I mean by a numbers game. Okay. You make 100 offers to buy, and this is even from people that are in the MLS willing to sell their house. Like they really want to sell, right? And you make the right kind of offer, the investor lowball offer, right? Only 10 to 15 are going to even respond to you, right? And of those 10 or 15, maybe 5 to 7 get under contract. And of those, maybe 2 or 3 get wholesaled to an investor. So you actually lock down a contract. 2 or 3 actually of those contracts will be appealing to an investor who's willing to put their money up and actually buy the property. And out of those 2 or 3, only 1 is really going to make it to the closing table and give you a fat payday. Okay. But the thing is if it's a numbers game, that means if you work these numbers, then it's really only your fat payday is really only limited by your ability to get out there and make offers. Okay. So in order to do that, we have these 7 steps in wholesaling, and we covered most of them last month. I skimmed over finding the properties. I talked about it, but I didn't dig into it. And then I also kind of skimmed over determining the ownership. We did cover determining your max allowable offer, right? But we didn't talk about how you actually really do the research. And so I'm hopeful that today we'll have some time. If we run out of time for the main presentation, then what I will do is come back and do a part 2 later where I actually walk you through some of the databases. Okay. So finding properties, step 2, there's 2 ways that I'm going to cover on how to find properties. And of course, one is serendipity. You just happen to be talking to somebody, or you build relationships with people who have property. Okay. But that's beyond the scope of what we're talking about today. So today what we're going to talk about is prospecting and marketing. Prospecting is where you go out looking for potential deals, and you go out finding the deals, finding the owners, making contact with them. Marketing is where you find a way to entice owners to call you. All right. Both are very important in real estate investing. And when you get started, it's easier to prospect in the market because you don't really have a whole lot, but both are very important. Okay. Prospecting methods. We talked last time about using the realtors, going to the MLS, because most of those people, they already want to sell their house. We talked about using the bandit signs. Maybe those investors have some other deal that they can't use. We also talked about calling for rent or for sale by owner signs, especially those that are aged. You age them, you let them sit for a month or 2, and then if they're still available, then those landlords or those owners are probably getting desperate to sell. So then they're more likely to actually negotiate with you. Okay. So what we're going to dig deeper into today is driving for dollars. But before we do that, I want to talk about marketing methods. And last time we talked about using bandit signs. So we're using bandit signs to find investors because we're calling their bandit signs to see if they have properties and if they want to be on our buyers list, right? But we're also using our own bandit signs to attract people to call us, right? Flyers. I even talked about door knocking. I mean, yes, seriously, door knocking. When I first got started in real estate, I would go around and literally knock on the doors, especially if I was having an open house or something in the neighborhood. I would literally walk up and down the street knocking on doors saying, "Hey, I'm doing with this house. Do you know of anybody who's, looking to buy a house, or anybody who's looking to move, or anybody's looking to sell anytime in a hurry or in any time in the near future?" And you can get a lot of leads that way, y'all. And what we're going to talk about in this class today is we're going to talk a little bit more about mailings. I touched on it, but we're going to actually walk through how you establish a mailing campaign. Right. So first, let's talk about driving for dollars. And I prepared you this little video that kind of shows a little bit of us driving. Let me see if it will play here. Okay, the video is playing, but because I'm recording, it's not giving the sound. Okay, so let me just skip out of that. And that's too bad, because let me get to the middle of it. I actually show you guys video of me driving around. Right? Look, let me get to the end. Let me show you this one. For that one right there, too much for me. When you're driving for dollars, what you're literally doing is you're looking around. I'm glad now that I left these other slides in, because these are the slides that were in that little vignette. And basically what you're doing is you're learning the neighborhood, okay? And you're learning the neighborhood. You are looking for something that's boarded up. You're looking for something where that's overgrown. You're looking for where there's piled up any kind of indication that somebody's not taking good care of the property, or that it may be vacant, because those are the situations where people are more likely to sell. Let me go back to the video. Let's see. The sound isn't playing, but maybe, yeah, here we go. If I'm driving down a street and there's a house there where the bushes are nice and trimmed, I'm not going to go after that house, because that house is those people are probably not going to sell. If they do sell, they're not going to sell at a discount. Okay. They're going to go through a realtor, or they're going to do something else where they're going to want retail pricing. So the house next door, this bush could be overgrown because they just don't take care of it, because it's a rent home, or because they just don't care. Or it could be overgrown because they just want privacy and they don't want to have to put up curtains. You really don't know until you ask. So I put a note on the first house. For those of you listening only on MP3, the first house is well manicured, and it's got Christmas lights established. The second house has overgrown bushes, and it's got all the kids stuff in the yard. And so, I'm going to go after the properties where people are more likely to be, they're more likely to want to sell. Okay. And so it's the same thing with looking for other properties, whether you're driving, walking, or talking for dollars. This is a picture from an example that I use. Me and my husband were in Tampa, and everybody else, it's the high season. So everybody else has got their buildings open, and this one here is still boarded up. And we're like, hey, this could be an opportunity, right? So you always want to keep your eyes open. And when I'm driving for dollars, here you can see my Google map. This is a Google map of properties that I've actually researched from tax sales. Okay. So this is one type of driving for dollars. Like you pull a list from somewhere, whether you buy it through a list broker or elsewhere, and then you go look. Okay. Another type of driving for dollars is I just pick space, and I'm literally going to go up and down every single street. I'm literally going to go up and down every single street. And the reason I blow up these maps, I put them in a PowerPoint, I print it out, is because I want to be able to test. Well, let me rephrase that. I want my son, who's sitting in the seat next to me, he's going to mark all along these roads, which roads we've actually covered. And then he's going to put an X every time that we find a property we actually like. Okay. And so those are the kinds of things that I do. Now I use Google now because a lot of times I can't find a good map, but if you're in an area that still has a good ADC map, or where the Rand McNally map is actually detailed enough, then you can use one of those maps also, because this is just one little pocket. Okay. But this right here is probably about an hour's worth of driving, if you're really going up and down and really looking. Okay. And the thing is when you're driving for dollars, you want to be in an area where you are pretty much, if you drive for an hour, you should be able to find about 10 or so candidate properties. If you're not finding at least 10 or so candidate properties, then you are probably in the wrong area. Okay. So that's driving for dollars. Now with mailings, it's part of marketing. So remember, driving for dollars is prospecting. I'm going to look for stuff. Mailings is part of marketing. I'm trying to get people to contact me. And the whole goal of all your marketing is to get them to call you. Okay. So there's different kinds of mailings you could do, but you want to get them to call you. Okay. And so you could do a mass mailing where you send something to everybody in the block, right? And you want to do that if you're big enough that you need to brand, right? You need people to know you. You want people to get to know who you are, brand recognition. But most of that stuff is trash. And it's trash because you trash your own junk mail that comes in, right? You don't even open it. You just plunk in the circular file, right? So a more effective way when we're getting started with real estate, a more effective way is to do targeted mailing, where you only mail a subset of the population. So for example, you might only mail vacant homeowners. You might only mail military homeowners. You might only mail out-of-state homeowners. Maybe you want a small apartment complex. So you're going to do apartment complexes under 2 million in Fairfax County that have been owned 18 years, because maybe in a year or two, they'll be interested in doing a 1031 exchange. They'll have used all their 20 years of depreciation on the property and they'll be interested in the 1031 exchange, right? So maybe something like that. You pick whatever demographic and you find a way to get it. You either go through a list broker or something like that. It's more time consuming, but it's a higher percentage response because now you're going after people who may have more of a problem that you can help solve. Okay. And so you got to build that list. All right. And there's a way to build that list. We talked about driving for dollars. I showed you a little video snippet of me driving for dollars, or you can do some research, or you can buy through a list broker. Okay. The biggest thing about mailings is not the biggest thing. This is actually 50%. So it's 50%. Okay. One is what I'm going to talk about here. And then 2 is going to be follow-up. Okay. 50% of mailing is getting it opened. Okay. If they don't open it, you just wasted your time and money. Okay. And the thing is, we think, oh, I don't have a lot of money. I don't have a lot of time. So I'm just going to take the cheap route. I'm going to go do bulk mail. It's going to be cheaper. It's going to be easier. But the thing is, when you handwrite an address, or when you put a real stamp on there, a first class stamp, not metered postage, people think that maybe it's real and it's really something for them, not just blind mass marketing. And so I like to actually use invitation envelopes. And I like to use what's called lumpy mail. And that is where you put something in there like a pen or a small tchotchke, just some little thing that makes the mail look like it's got something in it. And of course, people want to open it when they think there's something in it. The more personal you can make it, the more likely it is to be read or opened. Okay. And I know a lot of times we don't want to take these steps because they're time consuming. But I'd rather handwrite addresses on my invitation envelopes that I got from Amazon. Or rather, I'd rather make my son handwrite the addresses that I got on my invitation envelopes from Amazon, because I know that almost always they're going to get opened. I have a very high response rate when I do my videos that way with my little gold envelopes. Okay. And the gold envelopes through Amazon don't cost much more than a regular envelope in Walmart. Okay. So the reason we want to get people calling us is because a lot of times, because we want to make cash. But the thing is, we want to do things to get the mail opened, and we want to do things that set us apart in the industry. Okay. Mark Emerson has this article called The Profit is in the Follow-Up. And he explains that a lot of us don't follow up, that half of salespeople actually never follow up. And I'm bad for that, y'all. I'm really bad for that. And only 25% follow up once. Only 10% follow up more than 3 times. But the thing is, if you look at his stats, only 2% of sales are made on the first contact, 3% on the second, 10% on the fourth. 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th follow-up. Okay. 80%. And so we're going to have to build in to our mailing additional follow-ups. That's why I say a 4+ campaign. Some people do like a monthly campaign. So they might put people in a 12-month drip. Some people will do a 5-month spread. Some people will just do 4. But it's really, you've got to follow up. So you've got to get your thing opened. And you get it open by making it distinct from other mailings. And then you follow up, because they'll see it month after month after month. And they'll be like, you know what? This person may be onto something, especially if you're sending them little gifts. All right. So I've got a script for you. You can get this script and others when you buy the full course. You actually get the slides that I'm briefing from. Although today you don't see me. So I guess it's the same. Normally I do me talking, but unfortunately I have my son here with me right now. And so I'm electing not to do that. Those of you listening on the MP3, if you would already have access to the recordings because you bought the access to the MP3s. So what you don't know is I'm just briefing the slides today. But you get the scripts, and you get the scripts without this big yellow box. Okay. dartrei.com. All right. Once you have done that, now it's time to research. You got to research to determine the ownership and the value of the property. Remember our number one rule: you make your money when you buy. So you're shooting for 70 to 80% of cost of value, plus you want to build in something for your fee. There's a lot of methods to research value. The best way to determine value of a property is to look at sold comps. Comps means comparables, which are properties similar to the one you're looking at, okay? And you can find comps by looking at things like the realtor websites, which the Board of Realtors controls access to the multiple listing service. And a realtor can provide you at what's traditionally called a comp, comparative market analysis, right? You can also go down to your land records office, especially in states like Maryland, where everything's online. I'm gonna tell you right now, sites like Zillow are not very accurate, especially in cities like Baltimore that have an alternating street value. So this street here is worth 100,000. The next street over is worth 500,000, and the next street over is worth 100. It's from the whole wealthy person servant quarters kind of construct of some of these towns. Okay. But sites like Zillow, I don't find them to be very accurate. Okay. And so I always recommend that people start with realtor.com for a ballpark. And actually, I forget where exactly, but I've researched some jurisdictions where the Board of Realtors for that region actually will show you, no kidding, sold properties. Not all of them do. Most of them don't show you the solds. You have to go to a realtor to get that kind of hard data. And that really is the best data. Sold what property, what the property 2 doors down sold for. That's the same thing as what you're trying to buy. That's the absolute best indicator of what the property's worth. It's what somebody's willing to pay for it in that neighborhood and in this time. Okay. So that's where I normally like to start. And a lot of jurisdictions have online records now, and if they don't, every citizen can go down to the courthouse. Sometimes it's called the clerk of court. Sometimes they have a specific land records office. Sometimes it's at the tax assessor's office. But every jurisdiction has a place where citizens can physically go. They may not have an online place, has a facility where citizens can go at no charge and look up this data. Okay. If you really need to do that, there's some places I lived in Virginia. There's one place I lived in Virginia where they didn't have anything online, and all around them, everybody had, I think it was Alexandria, like Fairfax County had records online, but the city of Alexandria didn't, so of course that was a while ago, but there are ways to research. And so there are different ways to research online. I've listed a couple here that I'm familiar with that I've used in my real estate investing. And if we have time, I will do that. I think we're running short on time for today, so I may not go through these today, but I may come back this afternoon and do a live demo. Okay. I might do that because I really want you guys to see. I want you to see how easy this is. You don't have to be afraid of this. Okay. Before we wrap up on marketing, I know I covered this last time, and most of the stuff that I covered last time, I'm not duplicating today. So I'm not going to dig into this as much as I did last time, but this is a very important concept in real estate investing. So I want to make sure that everybody's on the same playing field. You found the property. You either found it through driving through dollars or marketing, and now you've researched the property. Well, how much are you going to offer? You don't offer what the property's worth. Remember, we're striving for 70 to 80% of cost of value, and that's after any repairs. Now, your investors are probably going to be happy with 80%, but as a wholesaler, you want to go out there and find it for 70% of value, and that's crazy low. I'm tell you, most people are going to turn you down. This is why realtors don't even like to work with investors, because it kind of ruins their reputation to send out all these lowball offers, and then nobody ever even responds. They don't even tell you no, they just don't respond, right? But I'm telling you, you're looking for the awesome deal, not the everyday deal. The everyday deal is how so many people get in trouble with real estate investing, because they buy a property or they get into partnership with something thinking it's going to appreciate or thinking it's going to be a value in the future. And they have not actually taken the precautions they need to, or done the research they need to wait for the deal that gives you money now. And a deal at 70 to 80% cost of value is going to make you money immediately. Okay. So let me just walk through this example real quickly. If I have a property I'm interested in buying, I'm going to offer no more than 70% of the price for comparable houses in that neighborhood. I'm going to subtract something out for repairs. I'm going to subtract out what it costs to hold the property. So if I have to pay electric or water or all that, and I'm going to subtract out negotiating room. Now you might say, well, JJ, I thought I wasn't buying the property. No, you're not buying the property, but you got to think about it like as if you were buying it, so you can put together a good package for the investor who ultimately will buy it. Okay. So you're subtracting out from repairs. You're not going to make those repairs, but you're going to build that in so the investor knows that they can make their money after they make the repairs. Okay. So in this case, let's say similar houses are selling at 100,000. So the max value of this property fixed up equivalent to everybody else in the neighborhood is 100,000. Automatically, right off my bat, 70% is 70,000. That's it. I'm not going to offer more than 70,000. Okay. I'm going to ask the owners how much to repair it. Just a ballpark. And I'm going to pad whatever they say. They say 8,000, I'm going to pad it to 10,000. If they say 15,000, I'm going to pad it. I might pad it to 20. You know, I have found that a lot of properties, if you just slap 60,000 on there, that's a good estimate. But if you're in a much lower economic area, then you don't want to just use that trick. Okay. I'm gonna decrease the value. So if they tell me it's about 8,000, I'm gonna ballpark it to 10. I'm gonna subtract that 10 down. So now, no matter what they say, no matter how juicy the deal looks, I'm not gonna offer more than 60,000 for it. Okay. But I'm going to come down a little bit even more because I want to give them room to negotiate me up. That always makes a seller feel good, and I want to get paid. You know, so those of you who are looking at the screen, you see a bar here where I've got the 100,000 that it's worth, and you see different colors for each of these steps. Well, this green box here from 48 to 58,000, that represents room for negotiation and room for my fee. Okay. And so I might start at 38 to 48,000. That might be my starting offer. I want to give them room to work me up. I want to give room for repairs. I want to give room for my fee. I want to give room for the holding costs that the investor is going to have to pay. They might have to pay water, electricity. They might have a tax bill coming up, things like that. And then when you shake all that out, you don't want to even offer more than 70% of what the property would be worth. So that's how you calculate. All right. So now you're going to get more details and more commentary on this because I think I spent a good 20 minutes on this in last month's class. Okay. So you definitely want to do that. Okay. So that's how our steps are. Okay. In wholesaling, you buy your buyer's list, you find the properties. We talked about prospecting and marketing. Driving for dollars is a prospecting method. You do your research to determine who owns it, so that you can market to them and make a negotiation with them. We talked about how to value the property, and we talked about how to make sure you follow the number one rule of real estate investing: make your money when you buy. Last month, we talked about getting the property under contract, assigning it to a contractor, assigning it to an investor on your list, controlling the closing by working with a title company that you trust, and then celebrating, and don't forget, take me out to dinner or something, right? Drop me a cash app. Normally, this is where I would tell you, hey, sign up for my $3,000 wholesaling class, and we're going to actually get out there and drive, and we're going to do the driving for dollars, and we're going to take you down to the courthouse, and I'm going to do this and do this and do that. Well, with COVID and everything, I'm not doing those. So I'm not going to make you that offer today, but you can go out to dartrei.com and you can get more details. You can get the slides, the script, and all those kinds of things. You don't get the contracts. The contracts come with the expensive class, but you can get the scripts that come with the slides. And also remember, this is our annual Global Youth Initiative fundraiser. Appreciate donations of any size. You can PayPal Minister Wiggins. Also on PayPal, paypal.me, I'm Queen of Cashflow, or you can use Cash App, Queen of Cashflow, or bit.ly/love helping. All right. Well, thank you so much for